Hello and welcome to Camp Xbox. When we think of Xbox exclusives, our minds instantly jump to titles like Halo, Jet Set Radio Future, Project Gotham Racing, and I'm sure for you, many more. The truth is that there is a large number of Xbox exclusives that have faded to history. New Legends is one such game that many have forgotten or just may have never heard of. It's an action hack-and-slash game featuring an intriguing, futuristic Chinese theme. Today, I want to delve into its history and assess if it's enjoyable today. And I want to give a shout out to Barry Allen the Flash 8396 for the recommendation, and a sincere thank you to all my YouTube channel members. But let's go ahead and dive right in. New Legends began development sometime in the late 90s with the newly formed developer Infinite Machine at the helm. Infinite Machine was comprised of former LucasArts team members, including Justin Chin, a key figure in the Star Wars Dark Forces series. With Infinite Machine, Chin aimed to create a gaming world of his own. In a 1999 interview with Jeff Keighley, when asked about his confidence in the team's ability to break away and create a successful experience, Chin replied, "We wouldn't go into an endeavor like this if there were any doubt." During the development process, the original publisher Infogrames dropped the project and THQ took over. New Legends was showcased at gaming conventions as an Xbox launch title and exclusive. While it was initially anticipated as a launch title, it was eventually delayed with the official release taking place on February 19th, 2002. Recently, I played this game after being intrigued by it for a while. It seemed forgotten to time, and I wondered if there might be a hidden gem waiting to be unearthed. New Legends unfolds in the diverse landscapes of China, blending industrialization with rich historical and traditional elements. This fusion of traditional Chinese culture and advanced technology is evident in the coexistence of guns and swords. As the protagonist Sun Tzu, you are tasked with resisting the rule of Zhao Gan, who has seized control of China. The narrative takes you on a journey across the country where you unite rebels to oppose Zhao Gan's regime. The game's notable strength lies in the conceptualization of the story and the intricacies of its world. The inclusion of demons, some of whom are allies, adds a layer of complexity to the narrative. One intriguing character is a demon who assists you on your quest. The supporting cast contributes to the world building, offering a diverse array of characters that add interest and propel the plot forward. While they may not be the most compelling characters of the console generation, they manage to stand out, aided by the abundance of dialogue in the game. A noteworthy feature, especially for its time, is the real-time footage portraits in the corner that accompany the characters as they talk. However, Sun Tzu, the character that you play, lacks depth and comes across as a rather typical protagonist, serving as a narrative device to drive the plot forward rather than anything interesting. The game's appeal lies more in the world and its mythology, rather than the protagonist. It's evident that the developers had a compelling concept for the game world, but due to limitations or constraints, it may have not been explored to its fullest potential. With additional time, or maybe even a potential sequel, there could have been an opportunity to leave a more lasting impact. The gameplay is at its best in concept, much like the story. New Legends revolves around dual-wielding weapons. You play in a third-person perspective as you acquire guns and swords throughout the game. You have the freedom to choose the weapon type for each hand, 2 swords, 2 guns, or a mix of both, tailoring the experience to your preferred playstyle. This dynamic system proves effective in combat. It provides fluid and fast-paced action. Although guns are functional, I found myself leaning towards swords due to their consistent use, as guns require reloading and take up too much time in fast combat. There are combos associated with different playstyles, adding variety to the moveset. While not always the most strategically useful, it's a nice touch that complements the overall experience. However, despite the strong core mechanics of combat, the level design in New Legends is a significant drawback. Initially, the central city levels may seem promising, with a cyberpunk aesthetic and an army traversing tight corridors engaging in combat. While not exceptional, it sets up a serviceable game. Unfortunately, it feels like the developers gave up quickly after this point. As the game progresses to a prison camp, the lack of interesting elements becomes apparent. Areas are vast but empty, scattered buildings guide the way, and navigating through constant enemies becomes so tedious. The enemies, mostly bland, attack in repetitive ways with little strategy. This becomes particularly frustrating as enemies endlessly spawn, turning gameplay into a slow trudge of fighting, moving slightly, and repeating ad nauseum. Even in later mountain levels with slightly tighter spaces, the gameplay remains more of the same with minimal variation. The objectives, such as flipping a switch or shooting a cannon, lack any creativity and fall into the same monotonous pattern. The repetition is further exacerbated by poorly designed AI. Many objectives require having all team members in one spot to move on, but they often get stuck on random objects or are hindered by straggler enemies holding them back. The AI's reluctance to stick with you adds to the frustration, making it painful to navigate through levels with uncooperative teammates. It's disheartening because there is an interesting concept at its core. The combat with its dual-wielding aspect is intriguing and unique for its time. However, it feels like the promising concept was never fully developed into solid gameplay. What initially appears cool becomes tiresome quickly. Unfortunately, weak gameplay diminishes the overall enjoyment of the game, rendering the interesting concepts incomplete and lacking delivery. Graphically, New Legends has its strengths, particularly in incorporating the game's developed concepts into its art style. The Chinese architecture is visually appealing and it features vibrant colors that enhance the aesthetic. However, not all environments complement these strong points. A significant portion of the game unfolds on mountainsides, seemingly serving as a means to fill vast empty spaces with a black void. This becomes evident in more open levels that feel devoid of detail. While the graphics aren't necessarily bad, they don't quite measure up to the standards set by other Xbox titles of the time, appearing somewhat last gen. Despite having decent draw distances, the overall look is just jagged and barren. Character animations are somewhat staggered, and the lip syncing is notably subpar, contributing to a less visually appealing experience. Frame rate issues further mar the graphics, with noticeable drops that detract from the overall presentation. Once again, the game's concept shines through in elements like the juxtaposition of industrialization and religion in building design. Still, the environments themselves lack anything truly interesting. It seems like there was a focus on aspects that intrigued the developers, but other elements were completely neglected, resulting in an uneven visual experience. Luckily, I don't really have anything negative to say about the audio. The voice acting is solid and nobody delivers anything bad. The music is great in this game, and I hate that it's hidden behind a weak package. I love traditional Chinese music, and there's a lot of that here. It's lovingly crafted and melds into the game world. I love hearing the strings, and it can get extremely intense when you get into boss fights. I did notice that there was some repetition when it came to sound effects, but it was never so noticeable that it took me out of the game. I honestly was probably focusing on more of the other negatives to really take a notice of that element. So I'd say the sound overall is one of the better areas of the game. In conclusion, my overall impression of New Legends is rather negative. While the game presents an interesting idea that initially caught my attention, it's clear that such a compelling concept deserved a better executed game. The gameplay centered around the innovative idea of dual wielding is interesting, but unfortunately the poor layout and design of the levels undermine this potential. Weak level design and graphics that fall short of Xbox contemporaries contribute to the game's unfinished and lackluster feel. One notable positive aspect is the quality of music, which stands out despite the game's overall weaknesses. I don't think I can easily recommend this game, but I do want to acknowledge that everyone's opinion is valuable, and if you have fond memories of this game, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. Different perspectives contribute to a more comprehensive understanding of gaming as a whole. And on my original Xbox ranking list, where I rank all the games I've reviewed on the channel, I'm at 70 total games. New Legends is going to go in very low. It's at number 68. I put it above Driver 3 because New Legends at least has a really nice concept behind it. But I put it below Dangerous Hunts 2 because I think I would rather go back and replay through that game because of its quickness. Moving on to the lasting impact, at the time of release, New Legends came out to very mixed reviews. Some outlets gave it an average score, but others felt negative on it. Some common themes that popped up was that the game had poor level design and really bad graphics. A lot of outlets did see strengths in the gameplay though. Unfortunately, this game would garner less than desired sales and would lead to the closing of the development team. This was the only game that Infinite Machine would ever release. Which is unfortunate because they were working on an Xbox exclusive Sam & Max sequel that was scrapped, and I honestly would have loved to have seen that. Now, I see hardly anyone bring this game up, and a lot of the apps I use to look at audience scores, they're pretty devoid of anybody really talking about it. So this one is severely forgotten the time, but honestly, I think it's understandable. But that wraps it up for today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, also subscribe to keep up with the retro Xbox content. Comment below if you've ever played this one, or if you have interest in playing this one. I would love to hear your opinions. And I want to give a thank you to all of my campers and camp counselors. Thank you for the support. It really helps out the channel. And I'll see you here next time at Camp Xbox.